Hello, folks. This is Richard Florzak, the private chef to the stars, and welcome to Talking About Food, the only, may I repeat, the only local food commentary show on the Grand Strand that talks specifically about restaurants, food trucks, festivals, and farmers markets. We'll talk about my favorites, your favorites, and maybe on occasion the not so favorites. Although I haven't brought myself to do that yet. There's been a number of restaurants out there that I've tried that I just don't like, and I just can't bring myself to do it publicly. I know what it's like to run a restaurant, and hey, maybe I had a bad meal in there, so I'm just gonna keep it to that. I'm just only gonna talk about the restaurants that I think are good, and there's tons of them out there. And please remember, contrary to a restaurant chef, I cooked in a home. Much like you listeners, you and I have a lot in common. I've often said the only difference between you, the home cook, and me, the private chef, is I get a paycheck. So always remember, you are your family's private chef. You know, you folks and I have so much in common. I've said this before. I've been asked on a number of occasions to outfit some of the kitchens in the homes of the Hollywood stars that I've worked for. And it was a great honor to do that. You know, I would go into, stores like we have here, Swift Appliances or Dues Appliances, and choose what I thought that particular family needed, because I knew what the needs were. A lot more than you'll often see, celebrity restaurant chefs, being sponsored by some sort of, large appliance or pots and pans, which was always odd to me because they cook in a restaurant and you and I cook in a home. But that's why I'll also be talking about some of the best major appliances as well as best small kitchen appliances, best knives, how to cut corners in the kitchen without cutting quality. And from time to time, I'll be interviewing some of my celebrity friends, and whether celebrity or not, the topic will always be food, because nothing brings people together like great food. You all know him from Road Warrior to Braveheart to Lethal Weapon to The Passion. His name's Mel Gibson. There's a lot of things you don't know about this guy. One of the things is he treats people with respect. That's what I always loved about him. People around him, he always had the most respect for. You can always tell people in Hollywood by the people that surround them, how long they've been there. And I remember Mel telling me this story about his agent. He had his agent from like day one, before Mel was even famous. He hired this agent to help him out. And the agent stayed with him the whole time until I think it was just a few years ago he passed away. And that's like unheard of in Hollywood. You guys have heard the stories. Somebody starts to get big and all of a sudden they fire everybody around them. That's just not the kind of person that Mel is. Always loved that about it. Heck, he and his family came to my wedding, for God's sakes. I mean, that's the way I was treated there, And I remember he would come back from a trip, right, and immediately seek me out in the kitchen to tell me about all the great food that he had all over the world, wherever he had been, And it was really cool for me because I remember thinking to myself, he was comfortable enough with me that he would do that, not worrying that I was going to feel insecure and thinking, oh God, he likes that food better than mine. No. He knew that we both had this passion for food. One time when we were in Veracruz, Mel was doing the movie Apocalypto, and I was down there with him, and I had just done a dinner party for him for a bunch of his friends, and they had left. I was cleaning up in the kitchen, and he comes in and he sits down in the kitchen. He starts talking to me, and And we ended up talking that night for about 3 hours. As a matter of fact, he said, "Hey, Richard, go get one of your cigars, man." We had a cigar together and sat in the kitchen, and we talked about everything. We talked about faith and family and food, of course, but it just went on and on. It was just such a great time. Mel is a deep guy. He's funny and he's generous. And when we come back, we're going to be talking to Mel about food, real food. And Mel, welcome to Talking About Food.
Yeah, food, something we all need to live.
Yeah. Look, everyone on the planet knows of your achievements, both in front of the camera and behind it, but few people know how good you are in front of a stove. I do. I've seen you. I've seen you.
Yeah.
Is that something that just came naturally to you? Because it used to tick me off that I had all this schooling and I'd walk in and there you are, food flying, and you're putting stuff together. Does it come naturally to you?
Kind of. And it's actually, I blame my mother. She was like not trained, but man, she made stuff that tasted great.
Well, that's fun.
And she had to cook for a whole bunch of people. And by the way, Rich, I mean, you did go to school, and I'm not a patch on your expertise in the kitchen. I don't know how you do what you do with a rib roast, but one day maybe you'll tell me.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you said that about your mother, because that was my second question. But before we go there, I seem to remember reading an article where you were interviewed. This is years ago, before I even worked for you, that if you hadn't gone into film, you had considered becoming a chef. Is that true?
Yeah, well, there's something very creatively fulfilling about the whole process, as you know, and it sort of blends the three things of, like, it's the aesthetic, it's the art of it, it's also there's a spiritual component to cooking and to food, you know. So it's kind of, for me, it would fill that hole I need, you know, filled for, you know, to express creativity and
right.
and artistic, artistic expression. So, you know, and you can eat the stuff and live off it.
Yeah,
you know?
and so it's one of the things that you actually taught me was real soul food. You know, it's not a nationality. I mean, it truly does come from the soul. And I don't often see that, like with, you know, high-end restaurants and stuff. You said your mother was a good cook. Can you remember any of the dishes that she used to put together?
Oh my God, it was just amazing. Anything she made was so good, you know, like she'd make you an Irish stew or you know, or like the big roast beef or lamb, or, you know, she'd do all the big dishes, and pasta, Italian food, she was really good at, you know. But we grew up in an Italian neighborhood when we were the token Irish family in the Italian neighborhood, you know. And so, you know, we had access to all that raw material and all the expertise, and you know, we ate like Italians, you know. So it was like that aspect of it was great. What she could do with pasta was fantastic.
Right. Well, it's always remarkable to me when I hear stories like this, because you have a lot of brothers and sisters. How many total?
Yeah, there's like 10 of us.
Jesus.
And there's a whole crowd, you know. So she was cooking bulk, and she had a budget, but it was healthy, and it was like, and it was delicious, you know. So it can be done. Maybe a little harder these days with the way prices and, you know, with the economy's going, you know. Yeah,
don't get me started.
I saw an inflated lamb chop the other day. It was twice the size. Yeah.
Have you had much Southern cuisine? I mean, I was here with you for the Patriot. That was like my introduction to Southern cooking. Have you had much of it?
Oh yeah, I love it. You know, it's there's a lot of deep fried. There's a lot of there's some very interesting you know, there's a lot to be said for the hush puppy.
Yeah.
And you know, they use corn and
Right. Boiled peanuts,
and pork, and all this peanut stuff. Yeah. It's fantastic. I remember going down to a guy's place in South Carolina, and he had a garage. His name was Earl. And it was called Earl's Garage.
Wow.
And it was literally a garage.
Yeah.
And you'd go in there, and he had local people there.
Yeah.
With their banjos and mandolins and you know, playing country music.
Yeah.
In this garage. But his specialty, what he would do for everybody, is he would do a deep fried turkey in peanut oil.
Beautiful.
And it was and I think Martha Stewart went down there to this place, and she saw that, and she kind of like took that idea and really magnified it, so it became a thing. I've done a few deep fried turkeys. That's the best way to eat it, man.
Yeah. Oh no. After the very first time I did it, and I've probably done 100 Thanksgiving dinners. After that time, I'll never do it any other way. You know, Mel, you seem to get as animated as I do with, let's call it, down home cooking, right? I gravitate to that more, than some of the higher end bougie restaurants, and I'm sure you've been to those as well. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I'd say so. I like good wholesome food, and just like, one of my favorite restaurants was that steakhouse in Brooklyn.
Oh, it was
called
Peter Luger's.
Yeah. And you just can't beat that. Yeah. I mean, it's great. And it's down home stuff. I mean, look, I don't know what they do to that meat, but it's amazing. I think probably what they do is they choose the carcasses well. Yeah. But it's just it's just simple, keeps you fed.
Yeah.
Kind of delicious stuff,
I remember
with a good.
What was it you used to, for a while there, you were putting on the steak? It was like a sliced tomato and a sliced onion, and then a little bit of the Peter Luger sauce. You turned me on to that. Man, was that good.
Oh, yeah. They used to sell the stuff, and it's like crack, So it's...
I just, Mel, I just, maybe it's me, I just can't get animated by, the higher end, popular, supposed fine dining restaurants where, it costs $250 for a plate. And when they put it down in front of you, the portions are so small, you think you ate already.
Yeah. Not my favorite, but, and as I get older, I eat less, which is kind of, you need to, otherwise you'll turn into a blimp. But my capacity to eat is less,
Yeah.
I guess I'm getting ready for the box.
No, but yeah, listen, this is I fought weight all my life, and you're the guy. Another way you used to tick me off, you'd put a few extra pounds on, and you'd say, "Oh, I better cut back a little and ride my bike." And 3 days later, you'd have a 6-pack.
Well, those days are gone, Rich. Yeah. But hey, I'm 68 now, so it's I got a pretty good 1-pack though.
Hey,
it's a great 1-pack.
Yeah. What? I don't have any packs. So back. You can't see those back. Back to the meat thing. I'm very, very interested in your approach, and I've always been since I've known you. Obviously, affinity towards beef. What's the best cut? Tell everybody.
Oh my God, man! I like a nice fat T-bone.
Bingo. That or a ribeye.
Ribeye's pretty good. A bone-in ribeye.
Oh.
You're cooking with that. I like a New York cut too. A sirloin, a nice sirloin. Because apparently Henry VIII ate loin, and he liked it so much that he knighted it, and he called it a sirloin. So that's the story on that. I don't know if that's true. That could just be some sort of ye old beefeater lore, but I think it sounds like it could be a true story.
What's the deal with so many people liking filet mignon?
I don't know. It's not my favorite cut. I mean, it's nice. It's just not as flavorful.
No, there's no flavor.
Yeah.
It's
the best thing I ever ate, because I used to raise cattle, and we did this kind of experimental thing in Australia when we crossbred an Angus with a French breed called a Salaire, and the feedlots went crazy for these things because they were able to convert feed better into sort of meat and weight, and there was less waste because both breeds had this marbling ability,
right?
But the Salaire had marbling ability yet leanness. So when you crossed an Angus, which is a great piece of meat,
right.
With these Salaire things, what was happening was that you got less back fat, but it's still marbled, and it was lean, yet it had the flavor, and it was like maybe the best thing I've ever eaten.
Wow.
And we were pumping them out there on my farm, just like an experiment, but the feedlots really went crazy, and they were getting, carcass weights went up from 52% to 58% usable.
Oh, wow.
Really good stuff.
Is that product still around?
I'm sure somebody's doing that somewhere. There's got to be some Angus Salaire crossbred someplace, but just amazing, amazing crossbred steak.
Right. Right.
If we can get so mercenary. A friend of mine said he was with a friend of his who was like a vegan, and he got himself a burger and fries, and the guy sat next to him. He says, "So you're just gonna eat that murdered animal, are you?" And he said, "Well, and he said, well, to be fair, only when I'm hungry."
So tune in next week for part 2 of my interview with Mel Gibson. I'm still cracking up at that joke that he told. And he used to do that to me all the time. He'd come into the kitchen while I'm cooking and he'd say, "Hey, Richard," and you just never knew if it was a joke when he started or he was serious because he was so good at it. But he would just have me cracking up sometimes. Anyway, I've got another interview to do with a restaurant chef owner. And ironically, I was just talking with Mel about the fact that I'm not enamored with many, high-end fine dining restaurants anymore. It's just not interesting to me. I've been there, done that kind of thing. But this one is different. This is different, and we're going to talk about that. But in the meantime, I wanted to squeeze in this new pizzeria that I tried this past week. It's called River Oaks Pizzeria. It's located at the corner of Carolina Forest Boulevard and River Oaks Boulevard in Myrtle Beach. It's in the plaza where the Publix supermarket is. And I got the referral by a dear friend of mine. And he said, "You got to try this place." So I happened to be in the area and was in the mood for, in the mood. I'm in the mood for pizza when I wake up in the morning, for Christmas sakes. Anyway, I was in the area and I swung by there, and it's a nice place. And, once again, because I hadn't been there before, I take a look at the menu, and right away my eyes start going towards the other dishes, and I'm like, no, Richard, stay in your lane. You're here for pizza. And yeah, it was good. And they even say on the menu that their pizzas are made well done, and you can, request to have it any way you want, but that's the way they're served unless you specify otherwise. And it was good. It was really good. I don't know if it's going to be the best. I've probably got about 50 more places to try in the next year, but it was really good. The crust was nice and crunchy, and the bottom, the carriage, had that beautiful toasted, crunchy texture, but the look to it, because I held up a slice of pizza, to check the bottom of it, and it was just done so nicely. So, I got in my car and I'm driving home and bring it home to my wife and I for dinner that night. And of course, I'm halfway down River Oaks Boulevard, opening up the box and having a piece of pizza while I was driving. And of course, I couldn't control myself and ended up having two on the way home. So, and then I was thinking that when I got home, I kept the top of the box closed. So I'm thinking, well, it's a nice crispy crust. When I get home, it's not going to be quite the same. And when I got home and my wife and I start having a slice, it was just about the same. The crust on the outside was still crunchy. What I like that they did with it too is they brought the sauce and the cheese as close to the edge as possible, where you could still hold on to it. You weren't getting a 2-inch wide swath of crust around. It was just the right balance of sauce and cheese to crust. It's an 18-inch pizza for about just shy of $20, I think it was, which is, about average today. They do have a personal pizza size. Who would get that? But anyway, average deal. It's a good one to check out, folks. Once again, that is River Oaks Pizzeria, corner of Carolina Forest Boulevard and River Oaks Drive, on a street called Sapwood, 154 Sapwood. So anyway, when we come back, I'm going to introduce you to a really cool guy. He's the chef owner of a fine dining restaurant called Oak Prime. As a matter of fact, right around the corner from River Oaks Pizzeria. And welcome back to Talking About Food. I've got an interesting gentleman in the studio today. I don't typically do commentary on upscale fine dining. I mean, I have in the past, and they're certainly worthy of it. It's just that at this time in my life, it's just not what interests me the most about the food world today. I just sort of gravitate towards the smaller mom and pop places, just attractive to me. But I met this gentleman a little while back, and he so impressed me that I had to have him on the show. Not only has he won the chef swap at the beach, and also owns and operates a fine dining restaurant in Myrtle Beach called Oak Prime. But he has, I believe, he has and I'll confirm this when we start talking. He's accomplished all of this with not a bit of formal training. And that's impressive. His name is Jarrett King. His friends and colleagues know him as Chef JK. Chef JK, welcome to Talking About Food. Mm-hmm. How did you get your start?
I played basketball up until I was 18, 19 years old, and I was lost in life. And my brother was a kitchen manager at a oyster bar called Dirty Don's Oyster Bar on 21st Avenue. And I just started, I told him I needed a job. Yeah. I had a daughter at a young age, and I told him I needed a job, and he got me a job.
So that's your introduction into the food business? That was my introduction,
yep.
Okay. Formal training?
No.
Not necessarily a bad thing. You are the owner-operator of a successful fine dining restaurant. That is very impressive, very impressive. That's not to say if you're interested in getting into the food industry that you shouldn't go the way of a culinary school. As a matter of fact, we've got a great one right here in the Grand Strand. The Horry Georgetown Technical College is phenomenal if that's what you want to do. What bothers me a little bit about some of the students that come out of culinary schools, they come out with this sort of holier than thou attitude towards the food industry, like say the concept style restaurants or the mom and pop type restaurants are beneath them. And that's a terrible way to look at the restaurant world today. So what makes you tick? Everybody knows the horror stories of a restaurant. What makes somebody want to get into that business?
Everybody know, like growing up, everybody always try to say, find a job or try to find a career that you love. And I actually didn't love anything but basketball. I couldn't look past basketball. That's the only thing I loved, and that's all I wanted to do. So as I started cooking and people started loving and enjoying my food, it was motivation. Once I got the opportunity to reach certain levels, I took it and I just started falling in love with it more and more. My daily tick is to be the best that I could be. Because I don't like to make mistakes. And when I make something, I always want to make it better.
Yeah.
And it's always been like that. Always.
Is it safe to say, I've been accused of oversimplifying our business.
Right.
And that is, I like making people happy through food.
And I'm the same. You just simplified it more than I just did. But yes.
Yeah.
I feel the same way.
What you said was spot on. Mm-hmm. And when you first started to notice it, that got in your blood.
It did.
Right?
It did.
That's cool.
It did.
And that doesn't get old, does it?
It never does.
Yeah.
Never do. There are people, been together for 20, 30 years and come to celebrate their anniversary with me.
Yeah.
Want to eat my food.
Right.
Birthdays, anniversaries, all that good stuff.
You don't have to answer to this if you don't want to. I think a lot of fine dining chefs forget that. Do you not see that with other chefs?
I mean, I do. I know quite a few of them personally.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of forget the mission.
They do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why you're so good. We had off-air a conversation about what our interesting sort of trashy food interests are that we eat. And it took me a long, long time to say, you know what? I like that stuff.
Right.
I like foie gras, but I also like Velveeta mac and cheese. So if you had one dish to impress people, what would it be?
It have to be my Chilean sea bass.
And how do you do that?
I prepare it different types of ways. So I did a show called Chef Swap at the Beach. So, I mean, if I had to do Chilean sea bass, I will do a similar dish to what I did at Chef Swap. So I'll probably do, maybe pan-seared Chilean sea bass with goat cheese, risotto cake, with crispy pork belly, Brussels sprouts, with Cajun truffle, sweet corn emulsion, with poached lobster.
You're killing me here.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man, does that sound good. Oh, my God.
So if I had to showcase any dish, it's
the Chilean. Sea bass. Putting together a starter, a main course, and a dessert that you would suggest somebody coming to Oak Prime for the first time. Maybe they're a little bit intimidated. They're not used to fine dining.
All right. A dish that I will put together, if you like seafood.
3 courses.
3 courses.
Three courses.
If you like seafood, I'll do a seafood. So it'll be the oak shrimp. So it's lightly blackened shrimp with a sweet corn and polenta ravioli with a smoked tomato Madeira cream sauce.
Wow.
It's really good. But if you don't like seafood, you could go with our pork belly. So it's crispy pork belly with a hoisin sauce that I make with fresh lo mein. It's really good.
Yeah.
Really, really good.
So either the shrimp, I'm assuming they're local shrimp?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You source most of your stuff that you can locally?
Anything that I can.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So you have
That's
either
the first course.
First course, either the shrimp
or the pork belly.
Or the pork belly.
Right.
Okay, next.
We have to go back with that fish, with the Chilean sea bass.
Chilean sea bass.
With the Chilean sea bass. Or our steaks. We have really good steaks.
You mentioned to me that you were one of the few restaurants in the area that serves elk.
Definitely. That's what I was going to next.
Okay, let's hear it.
Next. I was going to say the filet or either the elk chops. So I serve New Zealand elk chops with rosemary confit potatoes, grilled broccolini, with blueberry bordelaise sauce.
Wow.
Really good.
Oh
really
my
good.
God. My assumption, and correct me if I'm wrong,
Right.
you're much higher end than I'll ever be, but the elk has a slightly stronger taste, which is then contrasted with the blueberry in the sauce.
It pairs well together.
Yeah,
really well.
see that?
Yeah.
Seems like every time you give somebody a squirt bottle with raspberry sauce in it, they become this modern artist,
know it, right?
And you just go, you know what? And that's what you do. You know how to walk that thin line between being way over the top,
right, without doing too much.
It's just great. Okay, third.
It have to be one of my bread puddings.
Yeah.
Any bread pudding. I mean,
give me one of them.
One of them. Let's do. I did a cinnamon donut bread pudding with a chocolate ganache with vanilla bean gelato. Yeah, it sold really well.
You make the gelato?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Wow. Folks, I don't know how you can listen to this and not want to go. Why should guests not be intimidated with the food that you serve at your restaurant?
I mean, a lot of them, like you said, they just don't understand. They don't understand, so it intimidates them, so they don't. And a lot of people don't like to think outside the box. Just like you said earlier about the frog wall. A lot of people don't know what frog wall is. I had a customer get mad at me because I had frog wall on the menu.
Why did he get mad?
Because he said I'm not supposed to have frog on the menu. It's against the law and all that good stuff. I'm like, I had to go on Google and look at it. I'm like, how?
Yeah, it was outlawed, for lack of a better term, in Los Angeles with the knuckleheads out there. Right. They're misinformed.
Right.
We can do another show on that.
Right.
But I feel like part of my mission in the Grand Strand is to open this up so that people don't feel intimidated by coming to, they'll say, well, it's expensive. Yeah, of course it's going to be a little bit more expensive in a fine dining restaurant. There's a lot that goes into it.
I mean, we get fresh food. Everything is fresh. My fish is fresh. My steaks never frozen. They always come fresh. We cut them in-house. We just do everything fresh. And the experience of our chefs, everybody is experienced in their kitchen, and everybody's know what they're doing, and they properly handle everything correctly. Instead of other restaurants just hiring anybody off the streets to come and throw something in a fryer and then throw it on a plate or in the box.
Right.
And giving it to you, yes.
People spend how much to go to a concert? Hundreds of dollars a ticket to go to a concert.
Right.
But to have a beautiful experience at a fine dining restaurant like Oak Prime, give it a shot, folks. Your partner and great bartender that you have there, his nickname is Smalls.
All right.
Because he's so tall. Yeah?
Right.
Yeah. He takes a lot of pride in his drinks.
It's phenomenal.
It's a big deal now. Specialty
really
drinks, and he knows his stuff.
He really do. He really do.
And your staff there, your front of the house staff, do you give them any specific training on how your dishes should be presented?
I mean, honestly, I just tell them what I'm serving. I just tell them every feature that I have, and they know the menu better than me. Just like you mentioned earlier about my partner. Like if you go sit down and at the bar, he'll give you a way. If I tell him what my feature is, he could sell it to me because he explains it so well to the customers.
So how do you get so good at hiring people like that?
So honestly, everybody at that restaurant, we all known each other for at least 5 years. All of us.
There's
and
the ticket.
We're closed net. And if you go there, you would have came from when it was Cypress Grill to now it's the same employees.
Right.
From when it was Fire and Smoke, like we all basically just came together and we just have Oak Prime together, and everybody feels like an owner.
Right.
Everybody feels, because everybody take pride in what they're doing, and so they don't want to let anything go because they make decent money off their experience and what they do because they love it.
Well,
and the customers love what they're doing. So.
And can people come in and just sit at the bar, maybe have appetizers?
Oh, yeah. They don't even have appetizers. They can just come in for a drink.
You know what, dessert, folks? Trust me on this one. More people need to know about it. I know what goes on in this restaurant, and I wouldn't steer you the wrong way. Here's a beautiful entry, what Chef JK just explained. A little bit intimidated? Maybe you think it's a little costly? Go sit at the bar. Just have a drink. You and your lovely wife are at home and you say, let's just have some what? What's your go-to trashy kind of food?
My go-to is baked spaghetti.
Oh, tell me about that. Tell me how that's made.
My mom's husband used to make it when I was younger, and I mean, like I told you, he made it with like 3 different types of cheese, and it was just he just make regular spaghetti. He'll put it in a baking dish, and he'll add cheese on top of it and bake it in the oven until it get nice and crispy. It was so good.
You're killing me
with some garlic bread.
You're killing me.
So that's a go-to dish. I love it.
Do you know? I know you already, but I know you even more now of what kind of person you are by how you answered that question. Because I have asked chefs in fine dining restaurants, and they would never let on that they liked something like that.
I would tell you, my staff laugh at me. They think I'm, like, JK, you crazy. You eat junk, you eat trashy food, but you cook this good food all day, every day. I'm like, it's just what I like.
I want people to know everything from little concept places all the way up to fine dining. There are other fine dining restaurants in the Grand Strand. I've been to some of them, but this is one that is not to be missed. He puts his heart and soul into it. He's got a staff. It's a team that fires on all cylinders. I hesitate to use the family analogy because you hear that so much in restaurants. We work together just like a family. These people work together like a well-oiled machine. They know their craft and they're proud of it. You really got to give this place a try. Chef JK, thanks so much for taking the time and coming in. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
And don't forget to tune in next week for my part 2 interview with Mel Gibson. Talks about some of the wild foods that he and Robert Downey Jr. were eating while on location. That's pretty wild stuff. Of course, some more pizzerias to talk about. We also have 2 students from the Horry Georgetown Technical College International Culinary Institute who were also on Chef Swap at the Beach, and they're gonna tell us all about the school, how great it is, and it is good, and what they're doing after graduation. Very interesting stuff. I can't wait to talk to them about that. I love talking to the youngsters just coming out of school and seeing what direction that they want to go. So there you have it, folks. Remember, you can email me at theprivatecheftothestars@gmail.com. Anything you want me to talk about or try, or places you've been to, or recipes you have. And if you're interested in a private cooking demonstration or cooking class in the privacy of your own home by me, the Private Chef to the Stars, you can find out some more info about that if you go to theprivatecheftothestars.com. And remember, folks, you are your family's private chef.